Om Shri Sai Ram, offering my most humble pranams at the lotus feet of beloved Bhagwan. A few years ago, when I was at Hyderabad on a vacation, I got a phone call from one of my Sai brothers. He was quite junior to me at the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. And after we introduced ourselves to each other, he directly dived into the topic that had been bothering him a lot. He was pretty agitated and upset, and he asked me, "Tell me, brother, does all this horoscope, astrology, these planets, stars, all this matter at all in our life? They should not, right? We are all devotees of Swami, we are Swami students. How does it affect us?" So even as I heard him, I knew that he wanted me to tell him that all these don't matter to us. Because that is what he was telling me. So calmly I answered him. I said, "See, that depends. Depends on what? It depends on the extent of our faith in Swami, the extent of our surrender to Swami. To that extent, these things don't matter. If our faith and surrender are both complete, then they completely don't matter at all." I knew that. I knew it. So actually that means these things, astrology, these stars, this horoscope, all this doesn't matter at all. Correct? So once again, I told this brother, I told him, "See, if our surrender to Swami is complete, then nothing, why the planets and the stars, nothing else in life matters at all. Swami alone will take care of everything." Then why is this becoming a problem? What is becoming a problem? I delved a little bit deeper because I wanted to know what is it that was bothering him. So slowly the details came out. This brother had taken a liking for a girl, and since his parents were scouting for probable and potential brides for him, he felt that this girl would be the ideal choice. As he confessed, he was in love with her. But then their horoscopes were not matching. That's what his parents had told him. And he was now very upset. He didn't want to see any other girl. And if possible, this is the only marriage he wanted to do, or else I will not marry at all my life. Now, I can definitely empathize and understand this kind of passion and energy, because in those years, especially in the 20s, they run very high. It feels like that. And that is the time we get attracted to movies that are romantic. We get attracted to novels that are romantic. That is the time when Valentine's Day becomes an important day in the calendar for us. And being alone on Valentine's Day makes us feel very awkward. All these things happen as a natural biological process, but at that age, they seem to become the most important. So this was what he told me. The interesting story didn't stop there. A few days later, I got a call from a sister. She too was having a similar problem. She was liking a boy whom she wanted to marry. But the boy's parents were adamant that he should not get married to her because their horoscopes were not matching. And can you believe it? This brother and sister, for me I mean, were looking at each other actually. Soon we got to know, and I said, "Hey, she has also called me, he has also called me." And every now and then they would call. Now this girl, she was saying that Swami had come in her dreams and told her that this is the boy she is going to marry. Clearly had shown him this brother. And so her questions were not so much about horoscopes and astrology. Her questions were like, "Now when Swami has said it, it should happen, right?" I told her, "Yes. See, if you are convinced that Swami told you, I hope that your subconscious or your mind is not making this up just to fulfill its desire. But if Swami has told you clearly in a dream that this is the boy whom you're going to marry, then it will happen. But then why is it not happening? That was her question. She was so worried. Why is it not happening? I told her, what is your age? You're 24, 25, right? It might happen 5 years later. It might happen 10 years later. Once Swami has said it will happen, rest assured. But I don't know when it will happen. Did he tell you when it will happen? No, but I just assumed this is the marriageable age. Now my parents are also looking out for boys for me, and I how can, if I get married to somebody else, then how can what Swami said went wrong? I told her, if you're convinced that this is the boy Swami has pointed out and picked out for you, then just don't agree for any other marriage. Just wait. For how long that boy's parents are not agreeing? Are the boy's parents more powerful than Swami himself? Don't worry. You live by your faith and conviction. Forget what the boy's parents are saying. Swami has told you, so just wait, holding on to Swami's words. After that, over the next few months, many other subjects were discussed. And I'm grateful to Swami that I had answers for all of them, thanks to his discourses and thanks to an amazing incident, an experience that Swami granted on the 2nd of March 2010. The questions that were discussed between the three of us ranged from the importance of marriage, the meaning of marriage, the purpose of marriage, whether the parents' permission is absolutely essential for marriage, should the horoscope, astrology, family, lineage, all these be considered in marriage? And if the boy and girl like each other and the marriage is getting delayed, is it okay for them to date each other, meet each other, possibly secretly hiding from parents? Is it wrong? Is it right? So many questions, and I'm sure these are questions that arise in multiple teenage minds. And I'm saying this because having passed through teenage years, through the 20s, through the 30s, and now being a married man myself with 2 children, I know that these things happen, and that is the reason I felt that this is something that should be shared. The different discourse clips that Swami has spoken about on these themes, and also that beautiful experience that Swami granted on the 2nd of March 2010. So 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, these were beautiful years for the devotees, because Swami gave multiple opportunities for devotees from across the Indian country and across the world to present programs in his physical presence at the Sai Kulwant hall. In fact, different festivals were already allotted to different parts of the world and different parts of the country so that these devotees could get the chance to participate and put up programs in front of Bhagwan. I think in those 4 years from 2006 to 2010, Swami has interacted and spoken to thousands and thousands and thousands of people from across the globe. Though there was technically no interviews being granted in the interview room, the whole of Kulwant Hall itself became an interview room, and there are thousands of stories that can be captured of the experiences of devotees as Swami watched the presentations and dramas that they put up, and Swami moved down the stage, granting them group photographs, speaking a few words here, creating vibhuti for someone there, granting somebody a photograph there. In the process, so many experiences, so many people got to experience Swami firsthand. It almost feels like Swami knew. Definitely Swami knew. Swami knew that 2011 he would be leaving the physical form, and there were so many devotees that had to be given that physical touch, that needed that physical touch, and he created this opportunity. And so as part of this opportunity, it was the festival of Holi in India. Holi is the festival of colors, and that festival was allocated to the states of Bihar and Jharkhand. And the devotees and children, Balvika's children from those states had come prepared with a long program to be put up in Bhagwan's presence. But then on the 1st of March, it was a kind of an anticlimax. Neither in the morning nor in the evening did Swami come out of the residence to grant darshan. And so these devotees were in a way disappointed. They had come prepared to put up a program in front of Swami. And I'm sure their disappointment was not about not being able to put up a program, but about not being able to get that interaction with God. When you feel deprived of that interaction with God, that is the greatest sorrow. And that is why, dear brothers and sisters, in our lives, we should try as much as possible to get people to experience an interaction with God, because that is something for which we get a lot of punya. And even by mistake, we should not be the cause to deprive somebody of their chance to see Swami, hear Swami, or experience Swami. We would be the greatest sinners. And so, on the 2nd of March, many of the devotees were leaving sad that they couldn't get this opportunity with Swami. They were going back to their home states of Bihar and Jharkhand. They were traveling to the railway station or the airport as their bookings were. But that morning, the morning of the 2nd of March, something interesting happened. Swami came for darshan. He interacted with this group, the people who were remaining still, who had bookings for the evening or the next day. And he told them that he would like to see their program in the evening. Immediately, phone calls went around everywhere. All those who had left came running back to Prashanti, because what can be a greater opportunity than to be with Swami? I think, forget the bookings. We should let aside and let go of everything in our life. Come running to Swami, because Swami is the most important in all our lives. Not just our life, in our lifetimes. We should not forget that this opportunity that we have got to know Swami. So these devotees came running back, and what a magnificent and marvelous evening Swami had planned for them. None of us knew at that point in time. I was seated right in the front in the evening when Swami came for darshan. Again, I was sitting in the front because I was the photographer and I had my camera with me. Even as Swami came, it was not before the devotees had yearned and craved, because Swami came at around 6:15 or 6:30. That is usually the time when Aarti is completed. But then, whenever Swami comes, that is the time for celebration. And 6:30 as Swami came in, the children welcomed him. Swami came, sat on the dais and watched the entire program. Not exactly the entire program, but I'll come to that. But Swami watched the singing, the dances, the skits, so many things the children had planned, and they were performing. Swami was watching them. They were all happy. Everybody was happy. The concluding skit for the evening was on this Rama Sita Kalyanam, the holy wedding between Sri Rama and Mother Sita, Lord Rama and Mother Sita. And this is something that is very, very, very dear to Swami. Swami himself in his discourses has narrated this Sita Rama Kalyana.
కానీ రాముడు సీత మెడలో హారం వేశాడు.
Rama garlanded Sita.
లక్ష్మణ భరత శత్రుఘ్నులు కూడాను వారి వారి భార్యల మెడలో వేశారు.
So also Lakshmana Bharata Shatrugna.
కానీ ఇంక స్త్రీలు వేయాలి.
And then brides have to garland grooms now.
ఈ సీత ఆ యొక్క పాలను పట్టుకొని ఉంటుండాలి.
Sita was holding garland.
ఎంతసేపు పట్టుకున్నప్పటికీ రాముడు తల వంచలేదు.
Rama didn't bend down his head.
ఇంత శివధనుస్సును ధరించినటువంటి యొక్క వీర్యము, ఇటువంటి శివధనుస్సును సాధించినటువంటి యొక్క గౌరవమును నేను తల వంచి ఇంత ప్రజల లోపల నేను లోపరుచుకోవటానికి నాకు ఇష్టం లేదు.
I am not prepared to bend my head because out of strength and valor I could break the Sivadhanus.
నా గౌరవాన్ని నేను కాపాడుకోవాలి.
I should uphold my respect.
నేను తల వంచను.
I don't bend my head.
అని చక్కగా నిల్చుకున్నాడు.
And he stood
రాముడు
still.
ఆజానుబాహుడు.
Rama is so tall in height.
ఎంతనో చాలా గొప్పవాడు.
And is a great.
చిన్న వయసు అయినప్పటికీ వీరు నలుగురు కూడాను చాలా గొప్ప దేహస్థితిలో ఉంటున్నారు.
Though they were so young, but they're so powerful and strong.
కానీ జనమంతా చూస్తున్నారు.
All people were watching the situation.
అందరూ ఏదేదో వణుక్కుంటూ ఉన్నారు.
They were just talking among themselves.
రాముని ఎందుకు తల వంచకూడదు?
Why not Rama bend his head now?
అని కొంతమంది ఏదో గుసగుసలాడుతున్నారు.
Some people started whispering among themselves.
కానీ రాములు కూడా ఎంతసేపు అయినా నిల్చుకోవడానికి ఇష్టం కాలేదు.
Rama also didn't want to stand like that for long.
లక్ష్మణుడి వైపుని చూచాడు.
He looked at Lakshmana.
లక్ష్మణుడు చూస్తే లక్ష్మణుడు చాలా సూక్ష్మ బుద్ధి గల భరతుడు.
Lakshmana
భరత శత్రుఘ్నులు కూడా చాలా సూక్ష్మ బుద్ధి గలవారే.
Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrugna are highly intelligent.
చూచి ఒక్క తూరి చాలా ఆవేశంతో వచ్చి రాముని పాదాలపైన పడ్డాడు లక్ష్మణుడు.
After some time, out of all anxiety, eagerness,
పాదాలపైన
Lakshmana fell at the feet of Rama.
ఎంతసేపటికి లేయలేదు.
And he didn't get up, even after a long time.
అప్పుడు రాముడు వంగి లక్ష్మణ లెమ్ము అని చేశాడు.
Then Rama had to bend down to lift up Lakshmana. Lakshmana, get up now.
రాముడు వంగినప్పుడు సీత తక్షణమే మాల వేసేసింది.
That was the right moment that Sita could know and garland Rama
సీత
immediately.
వేసేటప్పటికే ఇంకా ఊర్మిళ శృతకీర్తి వీళ్ళందరూ కూడా వేసేశారు.
And she was followed by the Urmila, Mandavi, Shrutakirti.
ఈ విధంగా వారి యొక్క గుణములంతా కూడాను, వారి యొక్క చేష్టలంతా కూడాను ఎంతటి గొప్పవో, ఎంతటి మర్యాదవంతమో, ఎంతటి కీర్తివంతును సాధించిందో ఇలా రీతిగా కూడా తెలుస్తూ వచ్చింది.
The world could know then the character, the virtue, the actions, the repute, the prestige, the dignity they had.
వివాహమైంది, అయోధ్యకు వచ్చారు.
After the wedding, they came to Ayodhya.
I was not surprised that these devotees had picked this particular episode from the entire Ramayana to depict in front of Bhagwan. Now again, there was a sort of anticlimax. As the skit, which was about 20-25 minutes long, was building up towards the climax, sage Vishwamitra gets Rama and Lakshmana to Janaka's kingdom, and this is the time when now Rama is going to lift the Shiva Dhanush, the bow of Lord Shiva, and break it and become the suitor for Mother Sita. At this particular point in time, as the bow was broken, Swami left the dais, left the stage and went into the interview room. Now, this entire program had been pre-recorded and the CD was playing from inside on the PA system, public announcement system in the Kulwant hall, and therefore the drama proceeded. About 8 to 10 minutes later, Swami arrived back on the stage. By then, everything was over. All the children were seated, waiting for Swami to come in their midst. As Swami came out, he looked at the Bihar and Jharkhand state presidents and asked him, is it over? Is Rama Sita Kalyanam over? And he said, yes, Swami, it's completed. So sweetly, Swami said, no, I missed it. I want to see the wedding. And so, the state president rushed inside the mandir because he wanted to tell them to rewind and play the CD again from that point in time where the holy union between Lord Rama and Mother Sita will happen. But then, even as he rushed inside, Swami looked at me and called me. And when I went to Swami, Swami said, tell them to start the Veda chanting. That is how it should be when the wedding takes place. So I requested Vednaran sir, Pravina sir and the other stalwarts, who were seated there to chant Vedam, and they started chanting the Vedas. And even as the Vedas were being chanted full-throatedly, Swami told me, all the party belonging to Rama should be on this side and the party belonging to Sita should be on this side. Rama and Sita should not look at each other. I soon realized that here was Swami who had decided to conduct the Sita Rama Kalyana himself. Immediately the state president was called back. I told him, don't play any CD. Swami will be officiating the wedding. Let's just go with the flow. And Swami conducted it so beautifully. He explained the glory of Rama Sita to everyone. He told all the elders to stand on one side and be ready with Akshata in their hands. He said, you should bless the couple. And then as Rama was led to the stage, Sita was also led to the stage by her father, that is Janaka. They both were not even looking at each other. And then they stood next to each other. Swami said that the cloth that was coming from them, there was a piece of cloth from Rama's dhoti and a piece of cloth from Sita's sari. Swami said they should be tied to each other. They should be together. And then Swami was so happy looking at the whole scene. Swami asked for the Vedas to be chanted even more loudly, especially the Mangalyam chants. These are the chants that are done when the holy union happens. So as the Mangalyam chants rented the air, Akshata grains were thrown by all the elders who were there actually, they were actually participating in the Sita Rama Kalyana, and I felt so blessed. I felt Swami was giving me the chance to be an organizer of this Sita Rama Kalyana. It's considered a thing of great merit and great good fortune to be able to do a Rama Sita Kalyana. And even as this was done, Swami said now they should walk around the holy fire. Where is the holy fire? There was no holy fire there. So Swami said they should walk around and take circles, circumambulate the bow of Lord Shiva. Something divine, It is a holy union in the presence of a divine witness. And even as this was done, Swami blessed everybody, all the participants of the drama, and then of course he came down the stage. And then another interesting thing happened. But before I go into that, this is the point I would like to pause and share multiple thoughts and insights that I gathered from this beautiful Sita Rama Kalyana that Swami himself conducted, personally supervising the wedding of Lord Sri Rama and Mother Sita. The first point is when it comes to marriage, the family background is very, very important. In fact, in the Ramkatha Rasa Vahini, there are 4 chapters that Swami has dedicated just for this holy wedding between Sita and Rama. Reading those 4 chapters gives us so many insights on how a wedding should be conducted. In that, right in the beginning, before the marriage ceremony begins, sage Vashishta comes and tells out the entire lineage and family history of Lord Sri Rama, starting from 18 generations behind. The same way, after that is done, Emperor Janaka speaks of his lineage, where Sita has been born into. So the family history is made known to each other. This is very, very important. In fact, there is a discourse that Swami delivered on the 18th of December 1995. I will read out an excerpt from that discourse. Swami says, "The antecedents of families were fully examined in the past before marital alliances were concluded. But today, sadly, these factors are ignored. People are indifferent to family background, while they are concerned about the pedigrees of the dogs in a dog show. This indifference to lineage accounts for the breakup of many marriages after a short time. This should not happen. Marriages should be a lifelong partnership." That is what Swami says emphatically on the 18th of December 1995. So when somebody asks, is it important to get the blessings of the elders and the family? Yes, it is absolutely essential. A marriage is not just between 2 individuals. It is a marriage between 2 families entirely. Of course, the primary beneficiaries or the primary participants are the bride and the groom. But definitely the blessings and approval of the elders is essential. Even if it is difficult to get the blessings and approval, the minimum is to ensure that they are not against the alliance at least. And for that, we have to calmly, patiently and with love convince and get their approval and blessings, and then only proceed. That is what I felt was Swami's indication on that day. And the second point now that I would like to share, this is important because this, I think, in a way answers all the questions about dating and meeting before the actual marriage. Swami emphasizes that Rama and Sita had not even seen each other before their wedding. And that's why he frowns upon all these depictions in dramas and movies and serials where they show Rama and Sita romancing with each other before the wedding. No. That is just fiction. Whatever is being shown is for entertainment purposes, frivolous entertainment purposes, because such things never happened. So, do we go blindly into a wedding? Do I marry a girl or a boy about whom I know nothing about? No, that is not what Swami was indicating. What Swami indicated was that everything was known about the boy and the girl to the boy and the girl as far as the character was concerned. And that's all that matters. Rama did not know how Sita looked. He did not know whether she was tall or short, whether she was blind, whether she was hard at hearing, nothing. But he and his entire family knew that Sita was a girl of virtue and character. So that much they knew. Similarly, Sita did not know how Rama looked, how tall was he, how short was he, what was, nothing, whether he had biceps, whether he was muscular, nothing she knew. But she knew that this was a family that was noble. He was a noble person, his character was pristine. And that's all that mattered, and that's all that should matter. Because everything else fades away. Let me read out one more beautiful discourse quote. This is from Swami's birthday discourse in 1973. Let me read it out for you. Swami says, "When one chooses a life partner nowadays, the first consideration is paid to the external beauty and charm. Next, the economic position is taken as the basis. How rich is he or she? How much does he or she earn? But questions like, how far are they educated? What is the social status? What is their character of the family to which they belong to? They are all asked much later. Carried off by mere external frills and foppery, people enter into wedlock and get entangled in misery or a destructive family life. The family cannot be stable if it is built on such slender foundation. Prime importance has to be paid to the fundamental requisites of a good character, high ideals of tolerance and forbearance, love and service. When beauty fades or wealth wanes, the bond also becomes less strong." And so now the question comes, so can we date each other to get to know each other's character? Having gone through the similar feelings and similar experiences myself, I feel we use the date as an excuse to indulge into those pleasures that can be left aside for after the marriage, after the wedding. We seem to be a great hurry. We want the pleasures of a wedding without the responsibilities of a marriage. That is why we want to indulge in the pleasures but not get married. We have all these living in relationships, staying together, not getting married. I don't know, I personally feel probably Swami would have frowned on all these. Because all these are clearly places where we want to take the rights and pleasures of that institution without taking on the duties and responsibilities and sacred vows of that institution. And that is why possibly this culture of dating, yes, when we say that I want to date to get to know the other person more, yes, do it in the presence of the family. Get to know the other person. Why do you want to have a private date? These are questions that arise, and these are questions that have to be answered. Even before I began this talk, I prayed. And I have kept Swami beside me because I would like to constantly think of Swami by my side, and I want to speak only that which I would have spoken in his physical presence. Because now, though I cannot see him physically present, I know he is there. And I think we should carry that same feeling even if we go on a so-called date. Take Swami along. If Swami is seated with me, how would I behave? I am telling Swami, I am going to meet this boy, I am going to meet this girl, because I want to get to know more about him and her. I want to know his or her character, because character is important. And genuinely let us meet to find out about the character. Find out about what is the common purpose in life that we have. Not to see the wealth, not to see the beauty, the prettiness, the handsomeness. Because if I was sitting with Swami by my side, that is not what I would have looked at. That is not how I would have behaved. If we can behave in a manner that is absolutely in sync with the manner in which we would behave with Swami by our side, then possibly that kind of a date is a genuine one. But then, what is the ideal Swami has placed for us? Rama and Sita didn't even look at each other. They didn't care how each other looked. Once they were convinced that the character is fine, the parents automatically gave blessings. And once that was there, they proceeded. They saw each other for the first time after they were married. That is the ideal. That is the ideal. Where nothing physical matters, only what matters is the character. The third important thing that struck me on that particular day, the 2nd of March 2010, was the atmosphere in which a wedding has to be conducted. Vedas were being chanted so loudly. I say this because many times in weddings, we play entertainment music, film music, fun music, dance. In fact, we get bored of the rituals of wedding and wonder what is all this? Oh priest, can you hurry up with this? What is all this going on? Instead, we should try to find out the meaning and purpose behind each ritual, because each of these rituals have been kept with a purpose. Once we find out the spirit behind the ritual, we become spiritual. Spirit plus ritual becomes spiritual. But instead of that, if we create an atmosphere with film music, yes, it's fun. But then, dear brothers and sisters, we can play this film music any other time also, right? We have got our whole life. We can do it. At that particular point in time, when I'm choosing a life companion who is going to be my partner in walking this path to God, in walking together as my friend in my journey towards Swami, we should begin it with the holiness and with the positive and uplifting vibrations that it deserves. And how was it? Swami wanted the Vedas to be drowning all other sounds. So loud were the chants in Kulwant Hall that day. That is the atmosphere. The atmosphere is the atmosphere that should be there, because this is the union of two souls to proceed together in a partnership towards Swami. And then another important thing, Swami wanted the cloth to be tied between Sita and Rama. Why? Because this is not like any other relationship. This is not like I can pick a friend and let go of the friend. I can choose a class teacher for myself, let go. No, this is for life. No giving up. No giving up husband, no giving up wife. This is for life. At the first instance of discord, these days we head towards divorce and separation. For the sake of money, for the sake of finances, for tax planning, we head towards divorce and separation. The primary reason is for two souls to come together in their journey towards Swami. That if we forget, everything collapses. And that is why I think Swami got that tied between Sita and Rama. There's a fifth point that I wanted to share. That happened so beautifully when Swami came down that day to grant group photographs. Swami wanted to stand in between Rama and Sita. But then Swami's wheelchair couldn't be wheeled there because Sita and Rama were tied, right? Swami then called and told, open that up, open that knot. And that knot was opened and Swami inserted himself in between. I realized that if at all there is a divorce or if at all there is a separation between husband and wife, the only reason for that is justified is for the sake of God. In order to bring God, in order to bring Swami in our life, if we have to give up the marriage, then it is fine. No other reason. Another meaning of that is, if at all Swami or God is the center of focus for both the husband and wife, then no other bonding is needed. Automatically we are together. Because that's what happened. In fact, when Swami came, Rama and Sita came closer to Swami because they wanted to be so close to God. When both husband and wife have the same goal of heading towards God, automatically you come closer and marriage serves its purpose of helping us speed up this journey. It was based on these discourses and this beautiful incident that happened on the 2nd of March that I actually counseled this brother and sister. Interestingly, what happened to their story? After a couple of weeks, I got a call that an uncle and auntie were waiting to meet me. And when I went and met this uncle and auntie, they said that they wanted to seek my advice on a problem they were facing. You know what their problem was? Their son was in love with a girl and they were not happy with the girl. And so they had given the excuse of horoscope in order to stall the wedding. What should they do? And you guessed it right. This was the parent of that boy. What is the chance that independently each of them come to me only to seek guidance on this? And I was just praying to Swami and I again shared the same thing. The same thing from Swami's discourse. The same episode that happened on the 2nd of March And I told them, uncle, auntie, you're wiser than me, you're elder to me, you know everything. You see, one Swami is there. If the girl loves Swami, if the boy loves Swami, and this union is going to help them move towards Swami, I think there's nothing better that can happen. All other things become secondary when Swami is primary. And well, a few months down the line, I got the invitation to attend their wedding. I in fact attended it. It's been 2 or 3 years now. It's a happy married couple. Sai be with them. But I'm grateful to Swami for this entire episode, which gave me multiple insights on this institution of marriage, the practices of dating that are more modern in concept that have come up. Well, I just pray to Swami. I hope that I have conveyed what he inspired me to. This is a very sensitive topic, and in my enthusiasm to communicate, I might have made some inadvertent errors. If I have offended anybody, let me clarify saying that that has not been my intention at all. If at all there have been some mistakes, please forgive me for that. With prayers to Swami, I pray that may all of us, whether we get married or not get married, keep him as our focus, because that is what ultimately matters. May we reach his lotus feet, may we stay at his lotus feet, may our love for Swami keep growing stronger every passing moment. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.